Money moves. Never level up your life. Keep it always cool. Yo, success ain't a straight line, they flip their feet. Turn setbacks to comebacks, now they're straight greats. From the grind to the shine, watch the pros improve. On unconventional money, it's the next gen groove. Genius minds outside the lines of unconventional money, we rise and shine. Unconventional money moves, where success rewrites the rules.
And entrepreneurs. And recently, I think you found a pain point for a lot of people with recent videos that you've been doing about money on social media. And it seems like you got a little bit of traction there. So happy to have you on today to chat about everything from healthy spines to healthy bank accounts.
That's right. It's great to be here. Thanks for asking me, Josh.
Yeah. So that video that you made, was that just like out of whim? Just like, boom, pull out the camera and just start chatting and see what comes out?
Yeah. So to give some context, as you said, I'm a chiropractor. My wife is a chiropractor. I'm married to my favorite chiropractors. We actually have 7 chiropractors in my family. I have a history in the New England area. I'm from Boston. We started the original Remarkable practice in Boston. We ran that for about almost 25 years and did some extraordinary things there. We were very successful in that undertaking. And I credit a few things for that. Is just a real commitment to driving better health outcomes for people. Just very passionate about that. We love to educate, but I'm just equal parts entrepreneur as I am clinician. So I love them both. And I took my entrepreneurial tendencies and I applied it to the chiropractic business, and the rest is history, as they say. So we created great systems for everything that would allow us to scale. If I have a superpower, it's attracting great people and building world-class teams. I love to train and develop humans, whether that's patients or team members who are now chiropractors. I had 40 associate doctors come through my apprenticeship program over about a 17-year period. And that's where I fell in love with really developing chiropractors and their teams. So from that, we birthed a coaching business called the Remarkable Practice. We're teaching other chiropractors, business owners, how to reproduce what we created. And eventually it became a big enough business where I was riding 2 horses, both requiring my undivided attention. So I was called, to sell the practice and really focus on infinite scalability by helping other doctors help more people, right? So helping more people help more people is my mission now. And we focus in that chiropractic space. So all that being said, we now take care of thousands of chiropractors in our ecosystem all around the world. And I've got 15 coaches who coach every aspect of business, from attraction to conversion to retention to team building and collections. For business owners that are listening right now, that means marketing and lead generation. It means sales. It means delivery. It means HR and the finance, right? So those are the 5 domains of every business, definitely true for all chiropractic businesses. So I think this conversation will translate. And you found me through our Instagram, which is fantastic. So I deliver content that's really specific to chiropractors and chiropractic business owners. But frankly, I meet so many people who are just business owners and entrepreneurs through that, because business is business, because people are people. So yeah, the video that you're referring to was 7 figures is the new 6 figures, which talks about, like you said, I think a pain point for all people, definitely all business owners, and that is, the money piece and making sure that you make the money work, because as I like to say, no money, no mission.
Yeah, I'll have to introduce you to my cousin. She works at Life University in Marietta.
That's my alma mater. It's where I met my wife. The second
No way.
program. So I went to Life University and very much involved at Life still.
Oh, nice. Well, I could still introduce you. She does all the social media things, so
that
could be a good plug and play for you, because you started off as a chiropractor, and obviously you had an acumen for business. Being a chiropractor, most people go into it because they want to help people. They want to make people feel better. They want to, be hands-on and actually interact with clients, rather than a lot of medical doctors aren't practicing as much medicine as they used to back in the day. So when you first started out as a chiropractor, what was the biggest hurdle to overcome to start getting people in the door? Or did you start at like a big practice? Like walk us through your process
Yeah,
there.
no, we started at zero. Right? So it was a de novo startup. So like all new businesses, there are dragons to slay. And I think the number one in any business, but definitely in chiropractic, is obscurity, right? So
Hmm.
overcoming obscurity, which is equal parts frustrating as it is inspiring to me, because chiropractic is 127 years old. It's the second largest form of healthcare in the world. 35 million Americans get adjusted, and still there's an obscurity. People just don't know who we are and what we do and why we do it. So, as after 9 years of college, I had nothing but debt, totally broke, and married somebody who was equally broke and equally in debt. So it was up to us to make it happen. Had lots of support by loving family and friends, etc. But it was all about slugging it out from zero. And when it comes to your four limited resources of time, energy, focus, and money, all we had was time, energy, and focus, because we ain't got no money. Right? So I took on the challenge of overcoming and slaying that dragon of obscurity. So it was all about getting out there, old school, traditional communication, right? So the smash mouth marketing of gripping and grinning, right? Walking around, meeting everybody in town, introducing yourself, and making sure they knew who we were and what we did and why we did it. I'm talking 27 years ago. So this is, imagine that, pre-iPhone, pre-Instagram, pre-Facebook. The first computer I ever bought was for my front desk. And you heard me right. I was in college for 9 years with no computer and no cell phone. So you learn how to communicate. So
Hmm.
it was real classic, traditional smash mouth marketing, and going around and helping people understand who you are, what you did, and why you did it. So, like everyone, it's getting customers, developing new business, and for us, that means generating new patients. So we had to make sure that we recognized right away how difficult and how expensive it was to find great patients. So we wanted to keep them. So we wanted to create raving fans, and so driving better health outcomes and getting real results and making sure that people felt loved in the process was our secret, right? So and just a real commitment to that. And like I said, it was after that, it was building systems and hiring teams and becoming a world-class trainer to create scalability.
Yeah, being that you started when you could literally knock on doors and people would answer for your marketing or going to businesses or putting up flyers. Now it's typically people want to feel like they have a choice when it comes to who they choose through social media or targeted ads. What what have you seen in terms of which which of those philosophies are actually easier, and what are the different challenges that you have nowadays with social media and everyone has a phone, everyone has an Instagram, everyone has something to say?
It's never been easier to be successful, and it's never been harder to garnish attention and
Yeah.
keep people's attention, right? So marketing is messaging. Everything else is just a platform, right? So whether you were meeting people by knocking on their doors and informal networking, or in a formal networking environment, it's or you're on Instagram, or you are interruptive marketing on Meta, or you're doing paid traffic through Google, or you have a podcast like this, or you're speaking from a stage. Regardless, it's marketing is messaging. So making sure that you are super clear on who you are, what you do, and why you do it, right? So people buy outcomes. So making sure that you're super clear on what outcomes do you drive. In other words, what problems do you help people solve, and what goals do you help people reach? Being able to articulate that in a compelling way, where people say, hey, that's me you're talking about. Hey, yeah, that's the thing I'm trying to get rid of or trying to gain. And saying it in such a way that you recognize you have to be ubiquitous and you have to be consistent, because you just know the third circle of that Venn diagram is the time is now, right? So people are overwhelmed, they're overscheduled, they're overstimulated. So you've got to get in front of people so many times that the time is now piece that's the secret to it. They used to say you have to touch people 7 times to get their attention. Now it's 77 times, right? So you've just got to be consistent, and that's why you and I are speaking right now, is I have an Instagram channel that I very consistently put up micro messaging that helps people know what we focus on and what problems we solve and what goals we help people solve or reach, and then direct them from our short form content to our long form content. So they have an opportunity to listen to our podcast or listen to some of our webinars or master classes. Because the people that consume your long form content, those are buyers. Those are people that you want to make sure that you're delivering huge value to them. And once you deliver value, you build trust, especially if you're consistent with it. And then people reach out to you. So like I said, it's never been easier to be successful, and it's never been more difficult to get and keep attention.
Yeah, a lot of people want to put out that viral clip. And I've actually, I've had a couple viral clips on a golf channel that I made, and you've had viral clips too. However, the viral clip is a great way to get like a good little pump towards your account, but without the right systems, that viral video isn't going to reap any sort of rewards. So when you have a video go viral, what is one system that you talk about that every person needs to have in place if they are looking to get a good message out there?
Well, I think you need to be clear around, what is your objective? Like, what are you trying to accomplish? So for me personally, followership is important to me. I want to drive people to our podcast, so they're following us on our podcast. We have a 6-year-old podcast called the Remarkable CEO Podcast for Chiropractors. So my partner, Dr. Pete Camiolo, and I have been churning out great content for 6 years every Tuesday. So I know that our ideal client profile, or ICP, our ideal client, listens to that podcast. And if they listen to the podcast and they like the podcast, they're going to love coaching with us. So ultimately, I want coaching clients inside of the Remarkable Practice, because our mission is to help more people, right? So I know what my objective is. So if I can get your attention with a relevant piece of micro content, like a reel or a short, and you say, hey, I like this guy's stuff, and you consume 2 or 3 or 4 more of those, and next thing you know, that's a breadcrumb trail that leads you to our podcast, and you start listening to our podcast, and 3, 4, 5 messages in a row across 3, 4, 5 weeks or months, or maybe even years, they finally say, you know what, I'm ready. I need these guys to help me, and they reach out to us, and from there, it's our job is to compel them to join and then drive the outcomes they're looking for to keep them. So, you've got to be super clear on what that pathway looks like. Then, everything after that is tactics, right? So if somebody interacts with you on your short form content, like I did with you, just reach back to them and make sure that they understand that you're watching and you're participating and you're responding. And, with short form content, it does 3 things for you. Number one, it tells you what you should create more short form content and test it to see if that's really what your ideal client profile is responding to. It should inform what you should be creating for long form content and direct them towards that. And you can take your short form content and turn it into ads. And those ads should drive them towards the long form content, because as I said, long form content consumers are buyers. So you want to get people to follow you on your long form channel like this for you. Like anybody that's listening to this message right now is probably somebody who is your ideal client profile.
Yeah, you just never know when they're going to show up in your inbox or show up on your calendar one day. You're just like, oh, I have a meeting, and it's like, oh, how'd you find me? Oh, I saw you on Dr. Stephen's podcast, or vice versa. And it just takes a lot of time. And nowadays, everyone wants everything yesterday.
Yeah.
But when it comes to building and scaling something, I mean, you started off when the brick cell phone was like the newest technology. Now we have Starlink and iPhones, and we can do almost anything. And essentially anyone has access to these sort of resources that versus when you started, only people who had a lot of money had access to these resources.
That's right. The world is flat, as they say. Like my comment, it's never been easier to be successful. You're talking to a guy who, I've started 15 businesses. I own 6 businesses now. I've done $100 million in revenue. So I've been there, done that. And I've been a hardcore entrepreneur for 30 plus years. And all of those businesses started from zero, which is almost unthinkable. Nowadays I'm more into acquisition than I am de novo startups, but anybody that's listening to this right now, what I want you to hear from me is it takes longer than you think, and it takes more time, energy, focus, and money than you think, and it's wicked hard, but it's worth it. And to recognize you can just go head down, bum up, and get to work and be consistent. I think consistency is the new intensity, and you have got to be patient, right? So be patient with yourself, be patient with your people, and be impatient with your process, and always be working on improving your process, because that's where you'll find greater efficiency and effectiveness. That's the only way to speed this thing up.
And as a process, so like, let's just say I come to your office and I lay down on your table. A chiropractor has like a certain process to adjust someone. How have you taken that process as a chiropractor and transformed that into having multiple successful businesses and 100 million in revenue?
So that's a great question. My moniker in the chiropractic space is I'm the systems guy. I systematize everything, right? So when it comes to process, procedure, and systems, you're talking to the right guy. So I'm going to take you back one generation of businesses. Is like when I was in grad school and I was in chiropractic school, I started a window washing company, right? So I was a bartender in undergrad because I needed to be able to make money at night. And by the time I got to chiropractic school and I was studying health and wellness and what it takes to be a healthy human being, there was a contradiction as being a bartender on the weekends, slinging drinks till 4 a.m. That was not healthy for me or for anybody I was serving. So I made a shift and said I still need to make money to pay for tuition and pay my rent. So long story short, I started a window washing company. And I was hiring all the other chiropractic students, and I'd have a roster of people, and created systems for marketing and systems for sales and systems for delivering great product and great service and building great teams of guys. And by the time I graduated, we had quite a business. So that was my entree into the business world. My brother ended up moving down from Boston when he graduated Boston College. I moved a couple of my cousins down. And long story short, that business now does $1 million a month. He's an incredibly successful person who's just turned it into 3 businesses. And all I started was the foundation for what he's turned into be an absolute empire. So that was my first business. So I took everything that I learned washing windows and brought that into the chiropractic space, because, at the end of the day, business is business and people are people. So it was all about creating clear marketing messaging, being very clear as to whom our ideal client profile was, what problems we love to solve, and what goals we love to help people reach, creating a great narrative around that, systematizing everything: attraction, conversion, retention, team building, and collections, and then surrounding myself with A players and a world-class team, get committed to training and developing people, and that creates scalability and durability, and then doing what you say you're going to do, keep your promises, charge what you say you're going to charge. All of these things that I learned washing windows is what led to running such a successful chiropractic business. And then from there, it became a coaching business, and from there, I now have a constellation of businesses that are all orbiting around the sun of chiropractic health and wellness lifestyle, and we're just solving the problems that people that are in that space are experiencing. We have an intimate relationship with this profession, so I see their problems, and to an entrepreneur, every problem is an opportunity. So I've taken all those opportunities and turned them into businesses.
Yeah, I mean, myself, I've never been to a chiropractor.
We got to fix that. That is a help.
So I've never been to a chiropractor, not because I'm against it, but just because I haven't. I'm not educated. It's not like, hey, like when my daughter's watching Miss Rachel, they have like an episode. Oh, you go to the doctor, but there's nothing out there like as a child or when you're growing up, like, hey, like preventative care could be going to a chiropractor. So like, what's something like someone like myself who's never been? What are the possible benefits I'm missing out on by not exploring that opportunity?
Oh, I love this question. And I'll reference where I started, which is the dragon we have to slay is obscurity, right? So you haven't seen a chiropractor yet because frankly, you just don't know why you should, right? So, and that's a incredibly common position. Most people, it's like, hey, I'm not against going to a chiropractor. I just don't know why I should. So I'll go super high level, and maybe we'll land this plane for you today. So
let's do it. Let's get that message out there.
The objective of a chiropractor, right? So the objective of a chiropractor is to make sure that somebody is living their life without interference. And here's what I mean by that. We have a different perspective. We look at the human body like the body is designed to be intelligent and the body is designed to be healthy, right? So there's an intelligence that runs your body, that regulates all systems of your body, and there's an intelligence that heals your body, right? So the way you digest your food, the way you heal wounds, right? So that's all an intelligence called innate intelligence, right? So that innate intelligence is the intelligence that took you and I from two cells, a sperm and an egg bumped into each other, and 290 days later, you were you, right? That's the same intelligence that runs your body and heals your body. So as chiropractors, we take this perspective that the body's designed to be healthy. Healthy is normal, and the body's intelligent, right? So the body's not stupid. It's really intelligent, right? So we say the natural state of the human body is to express and experience health. And if you're not expressing health or experiencing health, in other words, you have some kind of symptom or condition or some health crisis, it just simply means that something's interfering with the expression of health, right? So, and there's only two things that cause interference: toxicity or deficiency, or both, right? So as a chiropractor, as a wellness-oriented chiropractor, we look and we say, listen, your body's supposed to be healthy. You're not experiencing health or expressing health. That means there's something interfering with the natural expression of health in your body. So we just have to look for where is that interference coming from. Is it toxicity, something you're doing that's not supposed to be there, or deficiency, something that's essential, like an essential nutrient that's missing, and we have to reconcile those things, right? So we look across your lifestyle, like how do you choose to eat, how do you choose to move, and how do you choose to think? And we look for the toxicities and deficiencies, and we reconcile them, okay? So what does that have to do with chiropractic? Well, chiropractic is very much about a belief system and an understanding of how your body really works and really heals. So we educate patients and we adjust patients. So why do we adjust patients? Well, that intelligence that we talked about, that innate intelligence, courses across your nervous system, right? Your body talks to your brain talks to your body. Your body is this magnificent network of communication. And it's that exchange of information across your nervous system that keeps your body healthy and heals the body. So we've got to make sure that there's no interference in the communication across your nervous system, right? So a chiropractor, most people think of a chiropractor as a back doctor or a spine doctor, or maybe a back pain, neck pain, headache doctor, what have you. The chiropractor's focus is the nervous system, right? The reason our anatomical focus is the spine is because the spine houses and protects the nervous system. Like most people know that your skull is like a helmet that protects your brain. What most people don't know is that your brain continues right through your spinal column, right? That's called your spinal cord, right? That's just a continuation of your brain. Everybody knows how important their brain is, but most people don't know how important their spinal cord is. Your brain's so important it's encased in bone, right? Your skull. Well, your spinal cord is just as important, and it's encased in bone, and that's called your spine, right? Your spine is a series of joints, so you have good mobility, right? So your spinal column itself is a series of 24 joints. And it's what we call the suit of armor for your nervous system. It protects your spinal cord. Now, just like a suit of armor where you're susceptible for injury, where somebody can get a sword in, is at the joints, right? So you got 24 joints stacked up on top of each other, and between each one of those joints is a disc, right? At that disc level, there's a space for a nerve to come off the spinal cord. One goes to the right and one goes to the left. And then they branch off, just like the roots of a tree, to feed every tissue. Every organ and every organ system has a nerve supply. And the body talks to the brain across those nerves, and the brain talks back to the body across those nerves. And it's that communication that keeps us healthy and healing. So a chiropractor checks the spine to check the nervous system. So if you have any problems with your spine, you have a problem with your nervous system. If you have a problem with your nervous system, you have a problem with your health. So if you want to have optimal health, you have to have an optimal nervous system. If you want to have an optimal nervous system, you have to have an optimal spine. So if you have a problem with your spine, it puts pressure on the nerves, which changes the information that's going across those nerves. And whatever tissues those nerves feed, you end up seeing dysfunction at that level. So if the nerves feed your stomach, you can have digestive issues. If your nerves feed your lungs, you can have breathing issues. If your nerves feed your fingertips, then you can have numbness or tingling. If your nerves go down the back of your leg and the swelling, you might have leg pain like a sciatica, right? So Every tissue in your body, every organ system, every function in your body depends on proper nerve supply. So a chiropractor's job is to check that spine to make sure the spine is healthy so that the nervous system is healthy. You want a healthy body, you have to have a healthy nervous system. If you want a healthy healthy nervous system, you have to have a healthy spine. The problem that we correct is called subluxation. Okay, if the chiropractor who's trained to find subluxation in the spine identifies subluxation, which is where that interference is and that flow of information that keeps you healthy, and the way we correct it is what's called an adjustment, a specific chiropractic adjustment, where there's a very specific general force applied to that problem to realign the spine, take the pressure off the nerve, and allow the body to talk to the brain and the brain to talk back to the body. That's how you heal, and that's how you stay healthy.
Yeah, that kind of reminded me of the book The Accidental Superpower by Peter Zeihan, who's I think he's an economist, and he talks about when you're talking about the spine. Yeah, when you're talking about the spinal cord, it kind of reminded me of like the Mississippi River in America and how people ship things down the Mississippi, and then it goes on different trains, and then it goes throughout the country. So when you were saying like the spinal cord is like, that reminded me of like the Mississippi, and then it distributes everything to where it needs to go in terms of like a supply chain. But in this scenario, the supply chain is the human body. We hear?
Yeah, sorry, there was a little bit of a wobble in the internet connection there. I heard your metaphor for the Mississippi, and you're exactly right. I think that's a beautiful metaphor, especially if you look at it from a bird's eye view, looking down at the Mississippi and all the tendrils of all of those main riverways that turn into smaller rivers that turn into little creeks. And you know, you can imagine that, you know, as that water is the life supply, if you will, for the, let's call it farmlands at the, you know, as the water reaches its tendrils out into like farming lands, there's a reliance on the flow of that water for the farmlands to be productive, right? And if you were to choke off, or if there was a dam put up there and there wasn't the water flow to that region of the territory, then that farmland wouldn't be fruitful, right? So you would, instead of addressing, hey, there must be a problem with the soil, or, you know, maybe the plants aren't supposed to grow there, or the vegetables won't grow there, you would actually just go upstream and find the blockage, clear the blockage, and restore the flow of the water to that tissue. That is a perfect metaphor for what we do as chiropractors.
Cool. Well, I kind of get it.
I love it.
Not fully, but like, there's a lot of similarities to all sorts of things that you would never think of. So would you say that chiropractors, I guess it seems like they look and diagnose what's going on with the central nervous system versus I go to a doctor, they tell me to take a blood test. My blood test comes back, and then they're like, oh, now you need to take this pill and keep coming back to see me every 3, 6, 9 months till the end of time, rather than like actually looking at like what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, what we all realize innately and instinctively is that you have problems and then you have causes, right? So you have symptoms and then you have a cause, right? So if your symptom is you have high blood pressure, there's a cause for that high blood pressure, right? Again, your body's meant to be healthy. It's healthy as normal. You're meant to function normally. You're not meant to have high blood pressure, right? So, and the body's intelligent. So there's a reason you have high blood pressure, and you have to ask, like, why is the blood pressure high? What's causing that? And the reason is not a deficiency in drugs, right? So the medical response is, hey, let's give you a chemical and let's manipulate your physiology and let's drive down your blood pressure, right? So yes, the test might show that your blood pressure is now normalized, but what are the consequences of that? Like, why was your blood pressure high to begin with, right? So it wasn't for a shortage of a drug, right? So if somebody has headaches, you know, it's not that you have a deficiency in aspirin, right? So, and you take a drug, and what it's doing is it's covering up the signs or the symptoms that your health has gone sideways. We've got to go upstream from the symptom and say, what's the cause of it, right? So in chiropractic, we're in the business of finding the cause of problems. And if the root of the problem is an issue with the nerve system, and that stems from a problem with the spine, then the chiropractor can be the person that actually corrects the problem. And then downstream from that problem, the nerve supply is restored to the tissue, and that tissue or that organ system returns to normal function and health. So it's about seeking the cause of the problem, not just treating the symptom of the problem with drugs.
For sure. And since you're a systems guy, let's just say you do have high blood pressure and you're not a chiropractor, you're just a normal person out in the world. What would be the system that you follow based on what you know in the order of operations that you would take in order to figure out a solution to that issue?
So how would I approach blood pressure issues? Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, or any issue. We can choose any issue and then let's walk through your framework on what steps you would take in order to find the root cause of the issue, rather than most people are like, I need to see a doctor.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you look at blood pressure, there can be lots of causes for blood pressure, but typically, you look at how somebody is eating, moving, and thinking, right? So at the end of the day, there is a diet style that you could be following that could lead to high blood pressure, right? So there's a movement pattern that is predictably leads to blood pressure issues. There's a thought pattern, there's a thought life that leads to blood pressure issues, right? So if your diet style is if you have a diet style where you're consuming too many calories, unhealthy foods, pro-inflammatory foods, then you're going to end up with blood pressure issues, because you're going to end up with inflammatory issues like heart disease. So as your blood vessels get clogged, you have a blood pressure response that actually becomes self-propagating, and you end up with blood pressure issues. So you've got to adopt an anti-inflammatory diet style to reduce the pro-inflammatory state of your body. That's moving back to a more natural way of eating. So I personally, I follow the Paleolithic diet style, right? So it is a counter-inflammatory lifestyle. So for most people, they struggle with obesity issues. Obesity issues are typically related to their diet style, as well as not enough movement, right? So they typically have a lifestyle that they're spending most of the time sitting and usually in front of a computer, right? So they end up with obesity issues, and obesity issues are typically related to two things: high blood pressure and blood sugar issues, like pre-diabetic or diabetes, like type 2 diabetes. So most of that comes down to their diet style and to their movement patterns. In other words, they have a sedentary life, right? So we're meant to be active people. And for most people, if they would just simply start moving, they would lose the weight and their blood pressure would be normalized, right? So for most people, it comes down to getting some movement back into your life, because we've engineered movement out of our lives. So, when you're doing an assessment with a patient, you just figure out exactly, what are they doing for activity, for exercise, and where are they in their fitness levels. So just introducing something as simple as walking can help reconcile blood pressure issues, right? And then, of course, thought life. Social stresses. Most people find themselves under a great deal of social stress. We're in fight and flight all the time, and fight and flight is going to drive your blood pressure higher, right? So, and then to make things worse, most people are not sleeping enough, right? So that they end up with hormonal issues, high cortisol, and low testosterone in men because their sleep patterns are off. So again, going back to natural diet style, get back to natural movement patterns, and get back to a more natural thought life, which includes getting your sleep. There's typically not one smoking gun, right? So there's typically not one silver bullet here. You've got to address the lifestyle and get back to what is considered a normal, healthy lifestyle. I love the Paleolithic lifestyle, which addresses all of the above. Your diet style, your thought life, your movement patterns. And you can reconcile blood pressure issues, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, et cetera. All of these are lifestyle diseases, and they make up the vast majority of the health issues that people are struggling with today.
Yeah, well, it sounds like a simple process. 1, never give up. 2, systemize everything. And 3, just keep swimming. So happy to have Dr. Stephen on. You can check out him and his partner on the Remarkable CEO podcast. We'll see everyone next time. Bye.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh.